Imagine waking up on a quiet summer morning in 2026. Sunlight sliding across the fold-flat roof panels of a house that 6 months earlier existed only as a rumor on a late-night podcast. You step barefoot onto warm composite flooring, open the electrochromic window wall with a gesture, and remember almost in disbelief that the entire structure around you cost less than a used hatchback and arrived on a single flatbed truck. The story of how that moment became possible begins in 2018, when Elon Musk, halfway through an interview about Mars and Model 3 production hell, made an offhand confession. "I actually have a possible." Listeners laughed, thinking it another eccentric toy. Instead, it was the seed of Tesla's Spark, a mass-manufactured, hurricane-rated, solar-powered tiny house that may end America's housing crisis by replacing artisanal construction with the factory logic of gigacasting. To the present, and the American housing crisis shows no sign of easing. Median home prices have sprinted well beyond the reach of average salaries. Rents eat half the income of tens of millions. And municipal building codes still read like relics from the 1950s. Conventional construction, chained to labor processes and lumber price spikes, struggles to deliver anything below 6 figures that last longer than a camper. Into that gridlock, Tesla introduces the Sparka 375 square foot dwelling priced at precisely $7,759. Engineered to survive 120-mile-per-hour winds and 7.0 earthquakes, shipped worldwide on the same trucks that haul Model Y battery packs. Inside, the former battery plant at Sparks, Nevada, 100-meter assembly lines hum with robotic arms familiar to anyone who has watched. Model Y castings drop into vats of cooling fluid. Here the molds are big enough to shape entire walls, floors, and roof segments out of a recyclable cellulose silica we've reinforced with graphene microstrands. The panel emerges finished on both sides, exterior surface textured like stone, interior embedded with conduit sensors, radiant heat channels, and anchor points for modular cabinetry. Because each wall arrives as a single casting, there is no thermal bridging and virtually no material waste scrap slivers grind. Into feedstock for the next run, material choice does the next chunk of cost cutting. Traditional stick-built homes rely on 2x4s, drywall, asphalt, shingles, copper wiring, mineral wool, each sourced from separate suppliers and vulnerable to price shocks. Tesla's composite, derived from repurposed solar tile offcuts, and bioresin replaces studs, sheathing, vapor barrier, and insulation in one layer that outperforms them all, are 35 thermal resistance, 0 mold uptake, and a 50-year UV warranty. Because the laminate accepts inductive charging coils, every interior wall doubles as a wireless power surface. Lamps and appliances cling magnetically, freeing floors from cord clutter and letting residents loft slide or swap furniture without tools. Logistics seals the deal. A conventional modular home is trucked as a wide load at 14 feet tall. Accompanied by pilot cars and elaborate permits, the Spark folds to 8 feet 6 inches, stacks 3 high, and ships for under $1,000 cross-country. Arrival choreography is scripted to the minute. Crane lifts crate. Crate unfurls on self-leveling legs. Roof panels pivot. Integrated Tesla-tuned Milwaukee Drivers Titan 14 titanium bolts, and the house is watertight before lunch. 2. People with a tablet and a torque wrench finish interior build-out by nightfall. Where a suburban McMansion costs 70 truck trips of gravel, lumber, drywall, and shingles, the Spark needs one. Skeptics naturally point to zoning. Even the smartest foldable home is useless if the law forbids placement. Tesla anticipated that blockade by running a simultaneous political campaign, framing the Spark not as a shed or trailer, but as critical infrastructure for climate resilience. Wildfire fighters in Northern California tested early units as base stations. FEMA crews used them after Gulf hurricanes. Universities, desperate for dorm space, deployed them in parking lots. Each success story translated into a city council vote, loosening minimum lot sizes, setbacks, or foundation requirements. By April 2025, 34% of U.S. municipalities had adopted a Spark clause explicitly recognizing the dwelling as permanent. Housing, despite its foldable shell, financing, too, got re-engineered. Tesla Energy already marketed zero-down solar subscriptions. The same portal now offers the Spark. The typical borrower uploads a pay stub, selects a site address, and within 90 seconds, a lender consortium underwrites a 7-year, zero-interest micromortgage that posts a monthly of $130, less than most cable bills. Layer federal solar credits, state resilience rebates, and utility demand response kickbacks on top. And many buyers experience net positive cash flow from day one. The roof earns more than the loan costs. Step inside the finished space, and the futurism softens into warmth. 10-foot ceilings, daylight-tuned circadian lighting, and haptic wood grain surfaces erase the claustrophobia endemic to older tiny homes. A queen-sized Murphy bed floats behind acoustic maple panels. When raised, it reveals a workstation with a 70-inch ultra-wide monitor that flips down for movie nights. The kitchen island telescopes, breakfast bar, 6-seat dining table, or butcher block food prep surface. Cabinets are shallow but run ceiling height. They hinge upward on gas struts cannibalized from Model X Falcon Wing doors, hiding 127 cubic feet of storage in plain sight. Privacy emerges from clever zoning rather than square footage. Electrochromic partitions define the master suite, while a Magnetoc slide-out annex offers a kid's bunk or guest nook as needed, adding 17% floor area without violating trailer width regulations. In the loft accessed via a ladder integrated into the doorframe or retractable hammock floor becomes either reading sanctum or playpen. Sound dampening tech borrowed from the Model S Plaid's active noise cancellation pairs with triple-pane smart glass. So a conversation at one end of the house registers as a whisper at the other. Water autonomy runs through a 7-stage loop. Rooftop capture filters through graphene air. Showers recirculate after ultraviolet pulse treatment. And gray water irrigates a vertical greenhouse column that sprouts herbs, lettuce, and dwarf tomatoes. Biodigesting toilets shrink sewage, volume 90%, exporting a new slurry that local community gardens prize. The resident's phone opts them into neighborhood resource nets. Excess solar can trickle to a neighbor's power wall in exchange for digital housing credits spendable on cleaning, babysitting, or drone. Groceries, durability, the usual Achilles for cheap shelter, comes standard. Structural validation hammered early prototypes with Category 4 wind cannons, artificial hail, and shake tables tuned to the 7.0 Ridgecrest earthquake profile. No catastrophic failure recorded. Thermal imaging at -20 Fahrenheit showed zero cold bridging, while a South Texas test bed roasted at 115 degrees for 80 hours without interior tanks exceeding 70. Maintenance vectors are few. Wipe external panels with diluted vinegar once a year. Update firmware over Wi-Fi, and expect to replace the reverse osmosis cartridge every decade. Yet perhaps the most radical aspect is psychological. Homeownership used to mean geographic permanence. Moving meant selling, paying fees, uprooting. With a Spark hitched behind a Cybertruck, the asset turns nomadic. Musicians tours with their studios, digital nomads chase mountain bike seasons, and disaster response nurses redeploy from Tornado Alley to Wildfire Front without hotel chains or landlord negotiations. One statistic captures the shift of the first 10,000 retail Sparks shipped. 37% changed zip codes within their first year of service. A mobility once reserved for RV owners, but now enjoyed in a structure fully compliant with the International Residential Code. Scaling production from pilot to mainstream follows the familiar Tesla curve. The first quarter of limited run sees bottlenecks at composite curing. The second quarter doubles throughput. By Q3 2026, the Nevada line prints 15,000 units every 90 days. A second line in Austin mirrors output, and a rumored gigafactory in upstate New York eyes East Coast logistics. Component costs fall with volume. The price of the laminated Powerwall sheath drops 20%, the induction cooktop 31%. Meanwhile, engineers squeeze 12% more usable floor area from the same footprint by slimming hinge tolerances and relocating inverters to an underfloor service bay. Of course, controversy waltzes behind innovation. Carpenter unions protest. Job displacement, homeowner associations fear property values. Pundits draw dystopian parallels to company towns. Musk counters by live streaming financial breakdowns that reveal Spark buyers spend more on books or local restaurants than on housing, stimulating local economies. Studies by Harvard's Joint Center for Housing show measurable reductions in commute times and carbon footprints, aligning with municipal climate pledges. Carbon bond markets, hungry for verifiable offsets, snap up Spark villages as safe yield, pumping capital back into production lines. Stories pour in. A retired firefighter in Paradise, California, rebuilds on the same lot that wildfire leveled, this time with a Spark that doubles as a neighborhood resilience hub, lending battery charge through blackouts. Two teachers in Miami, previously priced out of homeownership, park their duplex pair on a friend's pineapple farm and funnel savings into their classrooms.